Here we are.
Hello and hello and welcome to Anything and Everything Burrito with Liz. I am obviously Liz, and with us today we have Armando Ramirez, Chuck Vipperman, Lauren Turkovic, and Jesus, no. Anyways, no, wait, fuck it. I'm nervous. We got to start that over. Or no, you know what? Let's not start it over. Let's just keep rolling. Screw it. Okay. So here we are. It's been a couple of weeks. We haven't had a chance to record. Armando's been away in Peru. I've been away in Facebook jail. We're back now. And since we've been gone, Trump has lost the election. Personally, I'm surprised. I thought he would win. His popularity over the past 4 years has only grown. I didn't care what the pollster said. I didn't care what any of that said. All I had to do was take a look around me and see the fervor of people and just how alive that MAGA movement is. I mean, whether we want it to be or not, he got 8 million more votes this time around than last time. That is not a repudiation of him. That is not the country saying we do not want MAGA ideals. We do not want Trump. That is half the country, now more, saying they want him, of voters anyways. You know, a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people on the left are kind of like, it's over. They're patting themselves on the back. It's over. Trump is gone. Everything's going to go back to normal. And we defeated him, but we did not defeat what he stands for. That he's not the end, he's the beginning. The seeds, they're planted. There are kids growing up in these MAGA households, these parents, these idiots who buy these Trump flags. I'm sorry, you know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insult you, but that sounds whatever. But those people, you know, they're raising kids and they're teaching their kids this stuff, and these kids are going to grow up and those values are within them. 2024, 2028, whenever, we're going to see that come back. So just that being said, like I said, I was surprised that he lost. I'm glad he lost. Obviously, I'm a Biden supporter. I am very, very, very happy that he lost, but I still don't feel comfort in the Biden win simply because of the fact that it wasn't a landslide. It was very close. And the fact that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So many people in this country wanted that man. So many people in this country support what he had to say. And that's terrifying. That is just legitimately scary to me. I wasn't sure if you guys had any thoughts since we've been away about the election. Or, you know, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and let Chuck start this one off. He's our new guest. Thank you so much, Chuck, for joining us.
You bet.
And if you had any thoughts about the election or anything that was said, or, you know.
Sure. I mean, I went in knowing I was going to lose anyway because I didn't like either one of the sons of bitches. So I wasn't going to hold a victory party on November the 4th anyway. But no, the polling suggested a Biden victory. Of course, the polls were quite off a bit in some key states in 2016, and they were off a bit here. But the reason Biden won was because he reestablished that so-called blue wall, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Those all three went for Trump in 2016 by narrow margins. They all went for Biden this time by a narrow margin. They called it a blue wall for a reason. There's enough electoral votes in those three states to tip an election, and more or less, that was the difference in 2020. Yeah, Trump got more votes, but there was a bigger turnout this time. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
We're still, in terms of a nation, we're still more or less 50-50, you know, give or take, in terms of policy, which, you know, is good in a way, but there's not a lot of interplay in that percent. People are staked out more solidly now, I think, than ever before. There's not much of a spirit of compromise these days, obviously. That's not in the cards for anybody, unfortunately. Yet, in terms of repudiating Trump, I don't think the election at large did that. The Republicans darn near took over the House in just about every district. The Republican House candidate outpolled Trump. So yeah, clearly Trump was having some issues in some vote. The Republicans consistently polled better, and the House was not even thought to be in play. And Republicans will probably end up with about an 8 or 9 seat deficit, which will make it the slimmest majority margin in I think 80 years. And in the Senate, again, we got 2 runoffs in Georgia that Democrats will have to sweep just to get a 50-50 tie. Of course, Kamala Harris is the tiebreaker now to give them de facto control. But if you are a Republican, or if you're like me, a libertarian who's concerned about big government initiatives, big gun control or stuff like that, even in a 50-50 Senate, that's not going to happen. Manchin, Sinema, and some other moderate Republicans are not going to sign on for any of the truly big stuff. So they're still, after the election, we still have an effective set of checks and balances. Again, in all likelihood, the Republicans will win at least one of the runoffs in Georgia, so they'll have the majority there. That will prove to be an effective check to Biden. You've got a near standstill in the House, so we've got pretty divided government, which for somebody like me, I didn't want one party to have control over all the House, Senate, and presidency. I wanted divided government. Looks like we're going to have that. So from that standpoint, I guess I'm pleased. I don't feel pleased, but I guess I should be.
Armando, did you have anything you wanted to, or Lauren, pick up from there?
I'll go ahead.
Armando. Yep.
Yeah, this I think what this election shows us, more than anything, is that not all elections are created equal. And by that, what I mean is that you can't just judge it based on past trend of what happened. And as we were just talking about now, how the polls, were not 100% accurate. Like, I think one thing that we noticed is that what stood out to me was the thing the polls got most wrong, in my opinion, were the 2 states of Ohio and Florida. And we've seen those states now consistently red. So I think that the polls definitely got that one wrong again. And it's going to be interesting to see if if those states continue to remain that way, which goes back to how divided the nation really is. That's why I don't think a landslide victory is going to even be possible for any kind of candidate going from here on in if it continues to look this way, because that's how divided the country is. It's that divided now that it's impossible for anybody to win in a landslide, especially if it's from the main 2 parties, be it Democrat, Republican, because there's never no third party candidate is ever given a legit shot to unfortunately compete. They don't get, the big media coverage and all that stuff. So we're always left with 2 choices that a lot of people are going to be unsatisfied with. It happened in 2016 and it happened to a lot of people. It happened again. But I think the big thing that went into 2020 was the anti-Trump factor, because he did gain in popularity, but there were also the past 4 years, he also got a lot of notoriety, which made a lot of people that maybe were not voters in the past get up to vote this time, particularly in swing states like your Michigan, like your Pennsylvania, where he won those in 2016 and then he lost those this year. I think that all played a role. I know people who never voted once in their life, never voted once, went to vote this time just to vote against him. So that shows you right there that, interestingly enough, with Trump, he got more popular, but at the same time got more hated, if that makes any sense, because he woke up a lot of voters to get up and vote who didn't want him.
100%. I would like to spin off that and say 100% I agree. I have a friend who literally has never voted in her entire life. I remember when she told me, this was like 2 years ago, she was like, I have to tell you something. I have never voted. And she told me like she was going to tell me that she raped a child or something, because she knows how near and dear to my heart voting is. So, so for her to tell me that she, and her husband too, that they don't vote.
Maybe she should have told you that instead of not voting.
I mean, truthfully, like there are people don't realize there are a lot of adults walking around out there who just have never, for whatever reason, been engaged in the political process. And she went and got registered to vote and voted against Biden. She told me that her family, they were like, hey, you live in Florida now, you better vote. And they got her to vote. And the funny thing is the other thing you brought up about Florida. I have been in a lot of political groups where I spend most of my time chatting, and I've been screaming for 4 years, Florida will go red, Florida will go red. Then in 2018, straight red in the middle, straight red. So I tell everyone, I'm like, hey, guess what? Gonna go red in 2020. If you don't remember, look at 2018. This state overwhelmingly chose to go red. They're gonna go red, and it happened again. And and you guys were talking about the blue wall, those states. I was surprised too, just because, and I don't really know people in those states, so I can't really like explain the shift because actually now, you know what, now that we're talking about that, Chuck, you were the one that was talking about the blue wall. What would you attribute that shift to being, to Trump losing those states that he had taken in 2016?
I think Armando said it. Yes, he became more popular with some, but for every person he gained, he lost another because of his abrasive attitude. And he's an asshole. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat that. Yeah, and just that for every one that attracts, it's going to repel another. Mm-hmm. The coronavirus, I think, is the number one reason he lost it, because, I mean, let's be honest, the economy was humming along fairly well before COVID-19 hit. It's never going to be 100% good for everybody, but if you've got a strong economy and you have a solid base as an incumbent president, you're probably going to win. I can't think of an instance where the incumbent did not win when we were in the middle of an economic upturn. But of course, COVID put everything in play. I mean, Trump, it was still a very close race. But yes, I think a lot of it was not just COVID and its reaction, but the fact that Trump had at best, a haphazard response to it as president. Now,
agreed.
Most of the nuts and bolts of COVID-19 and the reaction are left to the state's 50 governors. The president is actually very limited in what they can do from national policy standpoint. But above all other things, the president's supposed to be a leader. The president's supposed to set an example, a consistent example of a policy that at the very least should influence these 50 governors. And Trump is a good stump speech maker, but he is a terrible leader. And his lack of leadership skills were just really exposed by the challenges that COVID-19 created. And he flunked that mightily. And I think that cost him the election. And it didn't take much. I mean, again, we're talking Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. A few thousand votes got him in 2016. A few thousand votes will knock him out in 2020.
Yeah. Also, I think that when we kind of go back to 2016, to give credit where credit is due, it must be said that Trump did run, in my opinion, a very good campaign back in 2016. Even though, like, as a person, I'm not for him at all, but he had some good talking points where he railed against Hillary for being the establishment candidate, for how she voted for TPP and the NAFTA deal. And those were types of things that struck a chord with a lot of those voters in that Rust Belt area, I think. The thing is that because it was all in the mix of all the other stuff he was saying, which was very, of course, inflammatory and controversial, that's always going to take, the headlines in the news. But it must be said that, when he was going to his rallies and he was mentioning some of those points I was talking about, that garnered him a lot of support, not only amongst Republicans, but I think amongst a lot of independent and even some moderate Democrat voters that were not motivated to vote for Hillary Clinton because she herself was not a very likable candidate, even amongst the blue base. So those things lined up perfectly for Trump. You compare that to now in 2020, where, in my opinion, he ran a horrible campaign and he was just a mess and he was just all over the place. He had no kind of message. All he was talking about was radical left, Antifa, all that stuff. And he didn't really have, in my opinion, any kind of message that was going to garner him. Put it this way, like his rhetoric lit a fire under people that maybe didn't want to vote last time to vote the second time, because people just got sick of, hearing him and all that stuff. And again, I just think that this year he ran a bad campaign. Not only that he mishandled the pandemic, but he was a mess. He was all over the place. And I expected him to lose because of that. I didn't know how close the election was going to be, but I wasn't surprised that he lost.
Well, he thinks he didn't run a good campaign, though, just to jump in a little bit. Remember how he said he thought he did run a good campaign because he was doing all these rallies, and then Joe Biden wasn't doing any rallies. So Trump's thinking that, oh, this is going to be all red wave and everything's going to be in my favor because I did all these rallies.
He thought it was going to be a wash.
Biden, right, it was going to be a wash. That's basically what Trump is thinking in his mind, because he's so delusional. That he's thinking, oh, I got all these rallies and all these people are going to vote for me. And look at Biden, he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Biden's having like drive-ins or whatever he was doing.
Yes.
And it's because Trump is so delusional. He thinks he's going to win because he has all these rallies and all these people are showing up to his rallies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in the meanwhile, people are getting COVID and whatever at his rallies and like getting sick. So it just doesn't make any sense.
Huh? No, what I was going to say is the rallies ended up being super spreader events, yet he thought
exactly. He defies the point of his rally.
Did you have any other things that you wanted to say about just as far as your personal prediction and the outcome of the election and anything related to that?
I was just going to say that you guys were just talking about the parties, and there's Republicans and Democrats are within the political system, and those are the only people that are going to win, the elections. Without a good third party candidate, like Armando was saying, and like Chuck was saying, if there's not a good third party candidate that can win, we're screwed for however many decades or whatever years coming, if nobody can gain support in the third party end, because it's just going to be basically a fight between the Democrats and Republicans.
Well,
and it's the same old because of that, yeah.
Right.
Well, if you bring it up, it's funny. If I may ask you, Chuck, if this isn't too bold, I know that you're a libertarian, and Armando was talking about how, we're stuck with this two-party system. The third-party candidates aren't viable. Lauren just touched on it. Did you vote, Joe, in the election?
I did. And again, I knew it was going to be ineffectual. I mean, hell, I voted for Evan McMullin in 2016. Again, Trump versus Clinton, that held the same appeal as Trump versus Biden did for me. That is to say, no appeal. But to me, anyway, libertarianism is not a political party. It's an idea. It's a way of thinking. It's a value system. It's not a political party. And if you look at the Libertarian Party, I mean, there's some wackos in there, buddy. I mean, there's some certifiable folk in there. So yeah, in terms of being a political party, certainly a viable political party, it's not a good idea. To me, it's a value system, and you could use it to sort of influence thought, but it just doesn't work as a party.
But either way, you voted with your conscience. You voted for the candidate you felt would be best, despite all the other machinations going on, that you voted for your candidate. And, yes. Like I said, that's the way it should be. I should have just wrote Bernie Sanders. I don't know. But anyway. So speaking of that, so now that we're going on to that, okay, so we've spoken about the election. I kind of want to go to Biden himself. Joe Biden is 78 years old. Even if he survives his first term, he's going to be the oldest president our country has ever had. Let's just say if he was to survive this term and he was to run again, I don't think anyone would vote for him. I don't think anyone would be foolish enough to vote for, an 82 going on year-old man. A lot of people, whether they want to say it out loud or not, are kind of secretly hoping he croaks and then Kamala can take over the driver's seat. I mean, there's a lot of people thinking that, whether or not they're saying it. We all know it's true. but the point is that I think no matter how the dice fall, we're all kind of aware that he's likely going to be a one-term president. We're not going to see a second Joe Biden term. Being that he is going to be a one-term president, more than likely, what if he lives? What types of things are we hoping to see him get done in that one term? What do we want from Joe Biden? What are we expecting from him? I have my own personal issues, but I wasn't sure if anybody else wanted to lead off with that, or should I?
You want to lead off?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically for me, it's canceling student loan debt. That was one of Bernie's main platforms. It's something that Joe Biden has said he will do. Elizabeth Warren had said she would do it within the first few days of her administration, if elected. Now, of course, the issue is Congress. So there's two ways he can go about this. He can get legislation passed through Congress, or he can just use an executive order and flick of a pen. Our debt goes away.
You can't fund it, though. I mean, you got to have funding.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just had to put that in there. You got to have the money. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Beth.
But the point is though, is okay. But basically, this is what Biden has said. This is what we know of what he did. He said that he will forgive $10,000 in student debt for all borrowers, and the rest of the debt for those who attended public colleges or historically Black colleges and universities and earn under $125,000 a year. So, I mean, you pen, no pen, I want it done. That's what he said. That is his campaign promise that I want him to stand by. I make less than $125,000 a year. I went to a public college. I want my debt erased. I'm not the only American in this boat who's sitting around hoping somebody will just magically wave away the debt. That's just my personal thing. I don't know how Armando, you've got to be swimming in debt, dude. Like I'm sorry, like not debt. You make plenty of bread, but you've got to have student loans. No, like it couldn't have been cheap to get there. Am I right?
I mean, there was no way I was going to be able to afford it out of pocket, so I had to go the student loan route. Man, I wish there would have been another way, but no, yeah. So obviously, this is an issue that would affect me for sure. Would affect me, my quality of life, all that stuff. So if something like that does get done, yeah, that would definitely be a bit of a weight off the shoulder. Take it down, what, 10 grand or something like that. That would be definitely something nice. I would definitely like to also see what they'll do about the immigration system. There's definitely, I think, I know it's not a perfect system, and I definitely think that that's something that needs some fixing. I think it needs there needs to be. I think the path needs to be easier for someone to become like legal and everything like that. Because that would definitely, I think, help so much of all of the stuff that, the past years we've been seeing people getting into the country illegally. I think if we have it so that it's easier to do it the legal way, I think that would definitely be something I'm looking for to see if this administration will do something about. With regards to Biden himself, I do believe he's more likely than not a one-term president. I don't think he's going to run again, actually, after his 4 years are up. In fact, I believe that, like I touched on earlier in the past podcast, I believe that Kamala Harris is kind of the establishment's that's their poster woman. They love her. They're grooming her for to be a future president. I've always felt that even before this election went. So I fully expect that that's who is going to likely be representing the Democrat Party in 2024.
I go? Oh, I just wanted to say also, to touch on what everybody is saying, that each person is going to expect, obviously, depending on your lifestyle, your situation, depending on who each person is, you're going to want different things from the administration, right? So like for me example, like, you know, each person, we have our own ideals that we want. For me, it's just basically basic human rights is what I'm looking for, you know, to keep try to take away the policies of what Trump has put in and make it, you know, more streamlined and more, because I lean a little bit more liberal, obviously. And you know, I'm looking at gun control. I'm looking at you know, keeping, you know, gay marriage in place, keeping abortion in place. Those are my issues, like big issues that, you know, Trump's trying to take away, that I want to see like replaced, or I want to see you know, put in place for me. Not affect, that doesn't affect me personally, some of it, but I'd like to see those things like, you know, keep abortion legal, keep gun control, you know, of AR-15s and things like that. And what was my third point? There was something else, but I forgot. But if anybody wants to touch on, each person has their own stance on each topic, right? So
Absolutely.
me leaning more liberal, leaning more liberal, I'd like to see those things in place, keeping gay marriage legal, keeping, you know, gun control, keeping abortion, keeping things like that from in the system.
Since I haven't gone, I'll go in terms of what I want from Biden. I'm libertarian. I want him to leave me the fuck alone. That's all I ask. I mean, God knows how hard is it to keep your damn hands to yourself. But anyway, I know that'll never happen. Anyway, I don't see Biden as someone that's going to make you know, wholesale systemic changes. And like I said earlier, any significant legislation that would be a big you know, a big move to the left or whatever will likely get checked in the Senate. So you know, Green New Deal or stuff like that, at least in its present form, is going to be a non-starter. Also, gun control will be a non-starter, and that is very, very good. Lauren, I just think we're going to have to agree to disagree on the idea of gun control.
Me and you, we
okay.
will.
But in terms of the student loan, I kept thinking about Alexis de Tocqueville's quote, 1824 in France, where he was examining American democracy as it was. And he said, the democracy will last until people learn they can vote themselves money. That's what that is, unfortunately, I think. It's just, you know, here's some money, vote for me. Here's some money, vote for me. That's not a good idea. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to get too much into that because I'm afraid I might tick somebody off, but I just think it's a bad idea.
No, I think that's a totally fair assertion, because essentially at the end of the day, absolutely, it's a vote driven by need. It's a vote, I'm not going to say, I vote Bernie and I vote progressive because I want my student loans forgiven, and that's the reason. I feel that student loans were an entrapment system. I feel there's a lot of things that are wrong with it as it is. Am I letting someone buy my vote? It is a very interesting thing to ponder, and it is something you have to question about yourself. If you're looking to a candidate to relieve some sort of financial ill and you don't ask yourself that question, you're out of your mind. So absolutely, I think it's a fair assertion. I think it's a fair question, but I think that loan debts are crushing so much. Well, you can't get out of it through bankruptcy or anything else. Why is that debt the one debt that I can't say I'm done with, goodbye? Everybody else I can tell to go fuck themselves and mark myself with the chapter, 11 or whatever, or 13 or whatever. 11, but I can tell them. I mean, I would have been better off going to a guy named Vinny in a fucking suit wearing a pinky ring and asking him to borrow money for college than I am going to hit them, because at least then he'll break my fucking knees and leave me alone afterwards. These people will follow you until the day that you die. They'll take my coffin and say, she owes us money, give us that, put her in a pine box. So I just think that the lock, that the amount of the fact that they are the only debt that you're not allowed to say go screw yourself on tells me that there's something about that that's a form of almost, it's a way of enslaving a generation. Like you, Armando, you're a young professional. You're about to get married. I'm sure I don't know your situation. You make really good money. Armando's not eating ramen noodles. Let me make that clear, people. Armando's living very well. But what I'm saying,
Yeah, right.
Armando obviously has debt. I have debt. Lauren, I'm not sure. I know your parents did the prepaid thing, but we're not going to break down
My parents paid for my college, so fortunately for me, that was one thing that they gave me. But yes, no debt for me.
Were smart. They bought Florida prepaid. They bought into the price in the early 1980s, and you went to college in the 2000s with that. Super smart. But the point.
But you know what the thing is? Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead.
But no, what you were saying is like nowadays you can't even just get a bachelor's degree. You're spending all this money just to get a bachelor's degree to pay off by the time you're retired, right?
Right.
And then you can't even live off a bachelor's degree anymore. You need at least get a master's.
That's the whole thing.
What's the point?
I can tell you right, Chuck, I promise you this. If they said to me, Elizabeth, give us that diploma back, you go back to being a high school graduate, and we wipe the debt. I'd be like, that shit back. Forget all the work. Forget it. Take the piece of paper. I will go back to being a high school graduate because it's not helping me in life anyways.
Right. You should have just worked your way up. You just graduate high school and then work your way up in a company, and you could be making making six figures by now. Exactly. Yeah. That's the problem with the system.
Exactly.
I wish as a nation we would steer more kids into vocational. We will always need plumbers. We will always need machinists. We will always need metallurgists. We will always need plumbers.
Trades.
Yes. Trade school. I mean, and these guys and girls go to school for a few $1,000s, and they come out and they're making $75K in their first year. Why? We need plumbers. We need the trades to be filled, and I wish we would steer more people into those. Where again, the cost of higher education is a fraction of what it would be otherwise. If you sink $100K into a degree for which there is no demand in the job market, then that's bad.
You just touched on the beautiful point. You hit it right on the nail. You said we need plumbers, we need metallurgists. That's not what we were told in our generation. We were told through the valley, pick something that you like. As long as you love it and you like it, it'll be great. That's what I went to college for. History. I went to college for history, and you know what? Do we need people who know history? No, we don't need them. We need a plumber. So here's Elizabeth with her degree. No one cares, but that's not it.
And not only that, Beth, you were saying about if you go to the Army, they pay for your college, right? So basically, you choose to either die, right? Because you might die if you go to the Army. I'm just putting a truth out there because it's true. Basically the truth to die to go to college.
No, but I went off on a tangent. Chuck does he makes a very valid point that I think any progressive should ask themselves.
Right.
You are having someone tell you we're going to give you free stuff if you vote for us, and you're making that choice. Are you not being bought? It's a fair point, Chuck. It really is. So, spinning off of that though. Speaking of money and the government giving you stuff, I kind of wanted to go into the stimulus and COVID as an overall topic, and because we're going to go into the ultimate welfare here. So, as we know, COVID cases are growing every day. As far as I understand, we're starting to approach the same situation we were during the spring. More cases recorded daily, more deaths recorded daily. We're hitting records again. A lot of people are fearing a lockdown. There's no more toilet paper anymore. I don't know. Everyone's starting to act like a jackass. There's also a bit of
understand that. What is it with toilet paper? What the hell can you do with toilet paper to help you in a pandemic?
Wrap yourself up in it.
Wrap yourself. Yeah, I mean, if you have to wipe your ass with a paper towel, you'll do that. Anyway, sorry.
There's a good old hose.
Well,
yeah.
I used to hunt. I've done it with sycamore leaves many times.
Right.
You identify. The rest of us will be out there grabbing like something that'll totally like poison ivy, oak, or sumac or something and start wiping away. But okay, so but there's also hysteria from. I'm not gonna call it hysteria. There's concern from people about the initiatives being started by local city and state governments. Some, I know, like Chicago's doing curfews now. They're almost on the border of lockdown. They're doing, different little lockup things. You guys are in South Florida. They're always on some bullshit down there. I don't know what kind of lockdowns you've been under. They get fined for not wearing masks, Chuck, if you can believe that down there.
$100. It's $100.
It's $100 fine if you're just caught walking around outside with no mask. So if I'm walking, I just want to ask a question. I'm at Target. I walk outside of Target. No, seriously, I smoke a cigarette, throw it down. I'm walking across the parking lot to my car. So I can get $100 fine for not having a mask on.
It's pretty much a mask mandate.
Do you have to everywhere you're outside, everywhere you go?
They had that enforced a few months ago, and I think they're enforcing it again. But Armando, do you know anything about that?
Definitely. There's not only a mask mandate in the States, but even in Peru, there's a mask mandate there. You get fined if you're not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And it just seems like, that's what they're doing. That's one of those topics there where, it's tricky because obviously, we're asking people, wear a mask and all that stuff. But the mask alone won't do it because, there's people who wear masks, but they're not washing their hands. And you don't know what they're touching.
They're not
put their
asking
hand.
you to wear a mask. They're demanding. If they're going to find you, they're not asking you a damn thing. They're demanding. And that's different.
You don't have your mask. Mm-hmm.
So,
Sorry.
This is what I want to know. Is it tyranny? Is it tyranny for them? For example, here's another thing. Okay, we're talking about mask mandates, but they're also some places dictating how many people you can have at your Thanksgiving table. Is this going too far to, in someone's private home, dictate to them if they're allowed to have 4 or 6 or 8 or 12 or 20? I don't know the rules, people.
See, I think when it comes to someone's private home, that's when you really start now, I think, intruding on people's rights, because I could understand if it's a supermarket where it's a public service place and you want it to be, I guess, safe for everyone. You don't want customers going in, getting contaminated and all of that, and then bringing in, I don't know, CDC, have maybe one of the business shut down or whatever. But I think when it comes to your own home, you should be free to do however you please, and whatever protocols you have, that's up to you. But it's weird because I read something I think it was today or maybe yesterday, about how I guess, I don't know, bars and clubs are starting to open back up again, and supposedly there was a bunch of people seen without masks and all that stuff,
Yep.
and heavily congested
That was at the wharf.
areas.
The wharf
I heard
That was at the
about
wharf.
that. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, maybe, maybe people are rebelling against it anyway, and oh, fuck it, I don't want to wear a mask.
There was a recommendation from the news or from wherever about how you should only have people at your dinner table that live with you 24/7. So you think people are actually going to follow that and say oh, only the people that live with me, that's only the people that can be at my dinner table, and that's it? I don't think.
Well, you already know I'm not following that. I'm going home to my house and I'm going to be there, and I don't live there, thankfully.
And you better bring your mask, girl. You better bring your mask. Because I know you don't wear masks in Okaloosa County.
Well, that's
the one that gets me is when you see people in their car by themselves wearing a mask. I'm just they obviously don't know how it's spread, to be by yourself in a car, by yourself in your own car wearing a mask with your windows closed and all that. That I don't understand.
I like to think in those cases they just simply forgot to take it off. At least that's what I'm telling myself.
Give them the benefit of the doubt. There you go.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this? Chuck, I was asking Chuck.
I agree with Armando. Regulating behavior in your home, as long as you're not, murdering somebody or giving them a Jeffrey Dahmer, then that's a bridge too far, I think. Again, there's so much about this. It's the age-old battle: freedom, security, freedom, security, freedom, security. How much is too much? Where do we draw the line here? And like I said at the top, as a libertarian, my views are not very popular during a pandemic, because during the pandemic, necessarily, people are going to look for collective actions, actions that, well, more than just individualist, collective actions to try to thwart the threat of this. I mean, that's the way viruses work. And so they are demanding a coordinated activity of some sort. And I understand that, certainly. I think a lot of these, though, are beginning to tamper with the fundamental relationship between the individual and the collective. And if the Constitution doesn't apply during a pandemic, then you may as well ignore it all the time. I mean, it is exactly for hard times that we have a document that limits our government. Now, again, we will look the other way if we collectively think something is a good idea. But just before we went on with the podcast, LA County announced that they were going to outlaw outdoor dining in LA County, which is, okay. I mean, that's a policy, but it's not been demonstrated that outdoor dining is a significant driver of COVID-19 numbers. I think most of them agree that it has a very minor impact just by its very nature. If it has a major impact, yeah, I can understand outlawing it, but this just has a minor impact. You're not doing anything except kicking a lot of businesses in the balls. Small businesses, the big boys can survive this. The small people cannot. And it just seems to me that is a needless exercise of government authority. If, in fact, outdoor dining is not causing a significant spike in the numbers, why do you eliminate it? If not for the appearance of, hey, we're doing something here. No, that's misapplication of power. And I fear we've seen far too much of that. And God help me, I think a lot of people are getting very comfortable with it. And that makes me uncomfortable. I think we're getting very, very comfortable with the idea of being told what we can and cannot do. That's not good. And I've seen people in these groups, when I question, okay, why is the government doing this? They get pissed that I even asked the question. Mm-hmm. They'll scream, listen to the science. I said, no, I'm asking a question to the government. Why are you doing this? The onus is on government to explain, not on me to tell them why they should not do something. It's the onus is on them, and we should never forget that. They work for us. We don't live for them. And that fundamental dynamic, which we will sacrifice some during the pandemic, man, we've got to keep an eye on that, because, boy, if you lose that, it's bloody difficult to get it back.
Yeah. So spinning off that, if I may just ask Chuck a question really quick. He was talking about them shutting things, the outdoor dining in Los Angeles, and how I agree with him that outdoor dining, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but I mean, for fuck's sake, it's outside. How bad can it be for people to sit outside and have dinner, with each other? It's outside, right? So, right. And he was saying that, who does this affect? It affects the small businesses and those people trying to survive in LA. It affects their economy. Right now, considering the fact that toilet paper is disappearing off shelves, we've seen this movie before. We are probably maybe headed towards some type of lockdown. Coming up here soon. COVID seems to be amping up. Lockdown coming. Being, as Chuck has mentioned, the effect that can have on businesses. Forget outdoor dining. We're just going to go indoor dining. We're going to go with everything. Do we support a lockdown if that should be what the powers that be call for? And again, it all ties into the point, of tyranny, of, are we going to let them shut down the government again? I mean, not are we going to let them, but are we in support of them shutting down the government again and shutting everything down again, and we all go back to our houses and do nothing for X amount of days, weeks, months?
No.
I don't think they should.
No. In reality, you can't shut down the government. You can't shut down the whole government. There's no possible way for that to happen. It's just not fathomable. Like, how's anything going to survive? How's anything going to survive if we shut down the government again? It's just, to me, I don't think so.
I'm sorry, I meant the economy. I said the government. If I said the government, I apologize. I meant the economy, and I think you meant the economy too.
Oh, sorry. No. No, the economy, you're right. No, it's true. There's no way that they can shut down the economy and for us to survive. We cannot go through that again. So I don't know. I mean, it's sad the cases that are happening. It's sad that coronavirus, maybe there should be some mandates. Obviously, I know people are against the mandates, the mask mandates and different things and curfews, but for shutting down the whole economy again, I don't agree with that. That's just my opinion.
I don't think shutting down the economy would honestly do us any good.
Mhm.
I don't think that would help, to be honest with you. I think what they need to do is concentrate on getting this vaccine and making it available to the public as quickly as possible. I don't know when that's going to be. I've heard December, I've heard middle of next year. It's hard to say, but I think that's honestly the best bet. And I guess let people have their choice whether they want to take the proper safety precautions. But in a time where so many are hurting or just getting back on their feet after, what was it, 8 months of like basically almost being on lockdown, like, yeah, I don't think that shutting us down again I think that's the last thing we need.
They're going to have the vaccine in Memorial Hospital and in Jackson Hospital first in December. That's what I heard.
For free?
That would be great.
I don't know if it's going to be for free, but I heard on the news that they're going to have it in mid-December in Jackson, down in Miami, and in Memorial in Hollywood. They're going to start distributing it.
That's what I heard in terms of national availability.
Yeah.
Sometime mid-December. Healthcare workers would be the first priority, obviously. But yeah, that's kind of the timeline. Maybe national distribution, that is to say, for everyone else by March of next year, something like that. But yeah, it's going to come. But I just, we get excited of this. I just hope people are just not instantly comfortable with the idea of being told what to do and what not to do, because I just think that's a bad place to be. We have to be irritants to the government. We have to demand that when they take rights away, that they properly explain it and justify it at all times, because that's what power does. Power in and of itself seeks to grow. It's a breathing entity almost in that respect. And we have so many worldwide examples of what happened to people when they stop asking those questions, when they stop demanding accountability from government. And I just don't want to see it happen here. Yes, we have a constitution that really, really insulates us against it, but if we're not going to pay attention to it, then it's just a piece of paper.
Right.
Chuck makes some really valid points, because my boss, for example, he told me that, and he's very conservative, but he did tell me that he kind of, in a way, that he thought this was sort of a test run to see how we would respond.
I've heard people say that, yeah. I don't know about that, but yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
And whether or not that theory is, that goes back to, is there are we puppets on a string? But the theory, in its very, very basic sense, is a relevant one to question. Is this a test run to see how easily will we be submissive? How easily are we willing to give up our rights? How easily are we willing to let the government tell us, you're only having 4 people over, or the people who live with you or whatever, in your own home? I mean, anyone who can't understand why that's an affront to so many Americans is just out of their mind. And it's such a conflicting issue, because, as Chuck said, there's safety, and security. It's like, I mean, what did you say? I'm sorry, I'm messing up the scales. You said freedom and security.
No, it's give and take. I mean, it's just, that age old, if you want to be safer, give me a little more authority and I can protect you. Yes or no? Is that a good idea? And that's since the beginning of what we call government, that's always been the case. Do you want to surrender individual liberty to be a little safer, or do you want to take care of things yourself? Again, it's always a trade-off, and it's always a question we should ask. But government is always going to be on the side of safety, because when we choose safety, we choose to make them increase their authority. And yes, in some cases it's altruistic. I mean, there are people who, no one wants people to suffer. No one wants to see people hurt. But there's you don't have a right to not face risks. Everything is a risk. There's a certain risk factor. If we wanted to really, really cut down on highway deaths, we could do that tomorrow by making the national speed limit 20 miles an hour. No one's going to do that, though. I mean, there comes a point where it's not worth it. And, we always have to figure out, where is that point?
I can see where he's coming from. It's a bit of a slippery slope, because you give them this. Okay, what's the next thing? Okay, then what's the next thing? Then what's the next thing? If it gets to that extreme, I absolutely agree that once your personal rights are like intruded on, that's when it kind of sort of starts to get dangerous. And that I don't think
how many people you could have in your home. Yes,
right. That right there is, if that's not stepping over the line, then we do have to ask ourselves, what is.
So even as I'm just curious, and you're a healthcare professional. A couple of months ago, you were working with COVID patients very heavily. That was what you were doing day in, day out, day in, day out. You've seen the ugly side of this, that side that, whatever. So I guess it's interesting to hear your views on how much power the government should have over us in regards to safety initiatives. That, that you still recognize individual freedoms and individual liberties, but also, that you understand, that, I don't know, I guess I'm confused in a way, because you were like, okay, people wear masks, you got to wear masks, but people are also dirty. They don't wash their hands. They don't do, there's all these other things at play that, I don't know. I guess I'm not articulating my thought properly. I guess, where for you is the line? Because you're a healthcare professional, but you're also for liberty. Where's the line?
I mean, I think the line should be, again, like if we're talking about, okay, like let's say you want to go to Publix and buy your groceries and all that stuff, because that's a public business, entity where a lot of people are there. It's not just about you there anymore, right? Now you're talking about potentially infecting the health of many, 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 many individuals, and that's bad for business, because then they lose customers and all that stuff. So I think when it comes to businesses, small corporate chains, whatever, restaurants, small stores, all that, I think that people should be considerate and should follow a certain mandate, because not a mandate, but for certain precautions. I'm sorry, wrong word. Follow certain precautions, because it's not just you putting yourself at risk, but you could be potentially putting others at risk.
Should or must, though, because that's muddling the line. Should or must, because you could say someone should do this, and then there's like, you are going to do. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I guess if we're saying must, that's what the government is trying to say right now. You're going to be fined, apparently, if you're caught, or they don't even let you in the places and everything like that. Like I've seen, they don't even let you in if you don't have a mask anymore. Yeah. So I guess,
of course, I mean, as a private business owner, I mean, they no shoes, no shirt, no service. I mean, they certainly have the right to do that. And of course, the government is, in this case, they're telling them, don't let anybody in without a mask. And, reasonable people are not going to have an issue really with that. I mean, indoors around a lot of other people. Yeah, and I wear a mask every time I go out into public where I know I'm going to be around other people, particularly indoors. The one exception is the gym. I cannot breathe in those things in the gym.
No way. No way.
The gym is kind of pointless, Chuck, like you were saying. The gym is pointless to wear a mask. It's mandatory to wear it, but it's pointless. Well, at a gym, I don't get it.
I have not been in a gym in, I don't know, maybe once or twice in my life. Do the other people in the gym wear it? Like, he says he doesn't want to wear it. Is it like a thing? You go in the gym and everybody's like, fuck it? Or do some people wear it? How does it work?
We have, I'd say about half of them wear it. I mean, but to me, I mean, really, I mean, if I'm deadlifting something, I got to breathe.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not breathing that damn thing. I mean, it's, oh God, I don't
Or you're on
wanna
the
die.
treadmill.
Just-
You're running on the treadmill,
Yeah.
Chuck. What the hell are you
Yeah.
doing running
Yeah.
on the treadmill and you're on the mask? Oh my
I don't-
gosh. But it's true.
I'm a
Everywhere has a
powerlifter.
sign. Huh?
I'm a power lifter. I don't do stamina.
Your stamina. But it's true. Everywhere has a sign. Armando,
I don't
you've
do
seen it down
stamina.
here. There's a sign
Yeah.
in front of every business. You
Yep.
have to wear your mask. And if they don't see you with the mask, like they're right at the door. They're like, they don't play down here.
They
They're
don't
like,
let you
mask,
in.
right? The mask will
Yeah.
kick you right out.
Yeah. They won't
So
let you
I don't
in.
know how it is. I don't know how it is where Chuck and
And they
Elizabeth
have the
live.
right to do that. I mean,
Here in Crestview, like corporation, like Walmart will make you wear it if you go in there and like, but like, no, like the gas station or like, no, you don't have to wear it. Like,
Damn.
unless you go somewhere that's like some big corporate, and even then, like the gas stations are corporations, but like, no. Or like if you go to Applebee's or you go to like, a restaurant or whatever, like they're not gonna make you wear it. Like you have to
What?
wear it. Yeah, you have to wear it. Like okay, like I've gone to the ale house like a bunch of times. Like, no, you don't have to wear that shit in the ale house. Nobody's
What? But you know what the funny
No.
thing about that? You know what the funny thing is about wearing a mask at the restaurant? Because when you're sitting down, the virus can't get you, right? So that's like Armando, when we're down here at the restaurant, we walk into the restaurant, right? We're
Mhm.
wearing our mask, and then we're sitting down, so then we can take off the mask. But then when we get back up again, we have to wear the mask.
Yeah.
So when you go to the
it's
bathroom,
a scientific fact that
you have to wear the
COVID-19
mask.
doesn't go around tables.
Right. So the virus doesn't travel below the surface, right?
Right.
This doesn't make any sense. Anyways, I'm loopy.
Hey,
I've had too many glasses of wine. Anyways. But it's true. The virus travels only in a specific way, guys. You know?
Mhm.
And
So that's basically,
evidently, according to the curfews, it does not attack at night. It's not like
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that too.
Right.
like,
Well,
Well,
you know,
like COVID sleeps or something. Like, oh, at 11, then COVID's over. It doesn't. It attacks at night.
well, the summer didn't kill it. That was one thing that was
Yeah.
being said by a certain
Yeah.
someone, that the heat would make it go away.
that didn't happen, did it?
Oh my God.
Okay, so now wait. So now to spin off of that, you Armando had mentioned vaccines, and you had said these vaccines were coming. From what I've read, the two big companies, I forget, it's like Moderna and like someone else, I forget.
Pfizer,
Who is it?
Pfizer.
Pfizer, I believe. Yeah.
PFIZER. I think, yeah.
PFIZER. The
Who
ones
is it?
that made a mint with Pfizer, PFIZER.
IZER. Yeah.
Okay, so from what I The two-
Pfizer was the one that had the first. Oh gosh, what am I thinking about? 20 years ago,
Pfizer makes Prozac.
they make Prozac. They also the erectile dysfunction medicine.
Yes.
Yeah, they were big on that. Where they made money. Yeah.
Okay, wait. So
So
the two companies that like have
Right.
like their vaccine is like proving to be over like 90% effective in both cases.
One-
Like
No,
90%.
one was 95%, right, Armando?
Well, I
One-
heard.
Yeah,
I
Pfizer's
think
was
I heard
95.
from the Pfizer one was 95 or 94. One of
Yeah.
them was 94%. Another one was
95,
95%. So
Right.
I guess that's a pretty
Pretty
good rate.
Right. So here's the thing. So many Americans are banking on another stimulus. They're hoping it's going to come. People are getting evicted. I saw a article a couple days ago. These massively long lines in Texas for food. Things are
Mhm.
getting bad. People are every day. Me too. I mean, I'm broke. I mean, I got money, but whatever. We're not going to go to my life. The point is, I could use a check. Okay. So we are all waiting on our stimulus, right? We're all looking for it. But Republicans are wanting a smaller package. Mitch McConnell said that he is hoping to get something out by the end of the year. You know all the back and forth. We all know all the back and forth. But the thing is, the Republicans are also saying, they're also saying that these vaccines are kind of like pointing towards there being an uptick in the economy. If they work, people will be able to go back to work. We won't have to lock down. Everything will be good and Gucci. So people don't need money anymore. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know what's going on. Like, are they stringing the American people along? People are needing this money. Where are you guys at with it? Do you think we're going to get a stimulus? Do you think we deserve a stimulus? What do you think should be in the stimulus? Here's what I'm for. I am for some paycheck protection, some unemployment, more of the 600 for the people on unemployment. I'm not on unemployment, so that's not about me. And a personal check, because that is about me. So that's what I'm looking for, and a bunch of other things that I'm sure people way smarter than me can figure out go in there. Go. What do y'all want to see in there? What's up?
And I'd like to see one. Nobody's going to say no to money, right? So, you give someone free money, they're not going to say no to that. Now, of course,
that.
Yeah. Now, of course, what if you remember the one that we did get back around, like, was it May, June, whatever? It was what, $1,200? For most people who were really in need, that's only going to go so far, especially if they lost a job and all that stuff. Not to mention when you factor in that there is an eviction crisis. So, yeah, like that money will only get them so far if they're not working. Now, for people who are working, yeah, that stimulus check will definitely help and give some breathing room, which all of us could use, and nobody would say no to that.
I understand what you're saying. Again, I'll just revisit what I said, a little while ago about buying votes, but this is a little bit different situation in that we are talking national pandemic. But my business, I do media consulting and various radio voiceovers, voice books, even sometimes. My business has slumped about 50% consistently since all this started, just simply because there's just less of a demand across the board for various things. So yeah, I'm not going to say it wouldn't be welcome. I'm not so cavalier that I'll say no to money, but I just need to be careful. That's all. I mean, we just need to be, and yes, it would be nice to, because the pandemic has drug on far beyond in terms of months from the first stimulus, then yes, they at least have to address it to some degree. I mean, they've already established that this is something that they're going to do. Now, it's been 6-7 months and nothing's been done. But like everything else, it's become a political football. Republicans put in things that Democrats hate and vice versa. And here we are. No one's getting anything done. But like I said, I'm not going to turn it down, but I just would urge caution. That's all.
What do you mean by that? Don't leave it at that. What do you mean by urge caution? Let's hear it.
I don't want us to have to rely on this every time things get bad. I think it's just a bad habit to get into.
Do you think that this is gonna, facilitate a situation to where whenever America goes into some type of emergency situation, people are gonna say, "Where's my check?"
Sure.
It's
very easy to do that. Again, yeah, because it's easy to.
Chuck, you go. I'm not doing it.
Do it. Do it.
No.
Yes. You guys. Where's everybody?
Me and Chuck kept trying to talk over each other like twice, and now we're both scared to.
We're waiting to see, where's the delay? No, right. You're right. You're right, Beth. I just don't want us to get into that habit of anytime things are kind of rough. Where's my check? We get Dow goes down a few hundred points. Where's my check? This stubbed my toe. Where's my check? I don't want us to get into that habit. That's all. But yeah, I mean, gosh knows it's a pandemic, for God's sakes. And at one point we had 40 million people out of work. I mean, if this is not an emergency, then I don't know what is in terms of economic intervention. But I just caution, just don't get in the habit of this. That's all.
I agree with what he's saying. That's a very good point, because yeah, we want to encourage people to get back to work. We want to encourage people to, obviously everything isn't normal, like, but like it was before. There's always risks and all that stuff. But you definitely don't want to encourage people to throw in the towel and just kind of sit back and kick back and expect the government to do everything for you and have you live in large and all that stuff, because that isn't a good habit to get into, and that opens the door to so many things that we don't even want to touch. So I do agree that, Chuck has a very good point. We shouldn't expect that. We are in a pandemic, though, so I think that there are people that legitimately need help. And to touch on, just touching back on the couple weeks before the election when this was brought up, and then remember when Donald Trump said that there was going to be no stimulus until after he won the election. I also think that cost him a lot of votes. That statement right there cost him a lot of votes.
Because he made it seem like it was, I could give this to you, but I'm not going to, because
he was kind of dangling that carrot. You know what I mean? And I think people that was not a good for Trump. Right. And I think that that kind of, again, lit another fire under people, kind of like, oh, really? That's how you're going to play it. Like, so.
Well, see, and that's the other thing too, is that they have played with people like, oh, we're talking about it. We're going to do it. We're not going to do it. We can't agree. Yeah. This happened. Right. She wore blue shoes on Thursday, and that means we can't meet till next Friday. And they were just coming up with any sort of thing they could. At this point, I agree. Chuck makes a good point, because he said, well, I don't want to set people up. The seed is set. It's done. Mama's ready for her check.
Other $1,200, right?
No, it's true. He's right, because it's done. Up here, it's set. I want my check.
Right.
And I think that he is right, because theoretically, the next thing that happens, the next time this goes down, there is going to be that part of all of us who are going to be like, hold on. You think the government's about to send out some money, though? So it's going to be a real concern. It is a real thing, but we all agree this is a pandemic, and there are people who really, really, really need help. My fear is just that so many people have lost so much from the first lockdown. We don't realize it, but so many Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. And those few months of not working, not having any money, not having anything, that has set people back so far. Yeah. And if we do that again, like that, we're going to see so many things we didn't see the first time around. So
you're talking about people who not just lost their jobs, but lost their homes. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Like, people, you live paycheck to paycheck. You miss a couple payments on your house, goodbye. It doesn't matter that you paid on it for 10 years. It's gone. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, like I hope that there's another stimulus. But I realize that, as so many of you guys have pointed out, like Armando said, you're not going to be living large. That, that one little paycheck isn't going to do much. But I hope something is done. That's where I'm at.
I think it will be. I think the winds suggest that something's going to be done. I think before the end of the year. Now, with the pressure of the election no longer a factor, I think that will encourage at least some dialogue on this. And I don't know. I'm just basing it on a hunch, but I think they'll do it, and they'll sell it as a Christmas present from the government. So
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, who doesn't love Christmas? But anyways, I think we are probably going to wrap it up. I did just want to say thank you so much, you guys, for, being a part of this podcast. Lauren, Chuck, Armando, this was great. And as always, guys, we will be back with a new episode of The Burrito. And is there anything else you guys wanted to bring up before we close out?
I just want to wish everyone ahead of time happy Thanksgiving and all that stuff. And again, it's always a pleasure here. And just one thing I want to add, I want to want to tell Chuck, you have a really good voice. I could see why you've worked in like media and radio and all that stuff. Like, you really do. Like, you project.
Appreciate it. I started in radio when I was in high school, 1984, just because it looked like something cool to do, and I've made a career out of it, and it's fun. I don't usually get to see people I talk to. This has been a new experience with COVID-19, doing video conferencing. Usually I send an MP3, and that's, they hear me and don't see me, which is good. I like that. But I appreciate that. I really do. And it's nice meeting you and Lauren. This has been very good.
Oh,
No doubt.
You're about to be back. You are coming back.
I
I
just want to say that we should just have our popcorn ready for January, right? To see what's going to happen.
I think we're already buying it.
Oh man,
January 20th.
I can only imagine
what's going to happen.
I can only imagine how many pardons.
I want to make a bet. Who thinks he's going to be there and who thinks he's not going to be there?
He's not gonna be there, but I don't think he's gonna be there, but I think he'll end up leaving in peace. I don't think he's gonna want to go through the humiliation of like being escorted out of the White House. He'll leave in peace, but no, don't count on him being at that inauguration. So
exactly.
Don't count on that. He's not gonna be there.
Yep. Okay. We'll come back to that topic probably right then.
Armando said him being escorted out of the White House, and I envisioned it, and I was so happy inside. Like, I just thought him like I had like being escorted out of the White House, and I was like,
that's funny.
But thank you guys so much. This was such a wonderful podcast, and
thank all of you.
Yeah,
thank you, man.
Guys, you guys are the best. Mwah. I am
Take
going
care.
to recording.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.